This video explains a few more aspects of my Black Dog mine layout. Because, as I mentioned in a previous video, it's suspended from the ceiling with a sort of pulley system and a hand winch, so you can raise or lower it. At the moment it's sat on top of my, what I normally use as a worktop for computer work and other hobbies. It's tucked in a corner here, and because there is track hidden up behind the hillside, it's obviously a complete menace if something gets derailed or you've got a problem. With track you can't see, so one way I got around that, good as bad as it may be, is this whole centre section here actually lifts off. In fact, if you look carefully, you'll see there the sort of dividing line. So that whole area there lifts off with all its buildings, with one or two exceptions. So there are 3 screws fixing that, and this has its own internal underneath wiring. I use several of these are copper strips for a lot of that. So the ore bin, for example, sits down in 4 hidden posts, so that lifts off along with a plug and socket to disconnect its power lighting from there. The same applies with the miner's hut, etc. So undoing the 3 screws, the whole centre section lifts off, and then if you can visualise putting a stool on the ground, I can very carefully, trying to make sure I don't wreck anything in the process, kneel across into where this section was and reach around behind just about to extract a loco. Really not ideal, I agree, but it was one way around it. I'm planning to move this into another location, so where it'll be self-standing, and then that problem won't exist. And then over here something similar applies. You'll see this section here, there's a vertical line which sadly isn't particularly well disguised. So this whole section here also lifts off. It's secured with Velcro, so you can get at the track work underneath there. But behind the back it's a bit more involved than you'd think. In fact, this is my track plan here. I don't know if this is in focus or not, but you can get an idea what's going on in the back under the hillside, and then the track re-emerges over there. As I mentioned before, there are 3 power districts. There's Power District C, which is really just for the upper mine level, and then as far as the rest is concerned, it splits up into A and B. It was all DC initially, and I did all the wiring and all the insulated rail joiners and the power dropper feeds and so on based on it being DC. But then as I got hooked on some of the Bachmann locomotives, which were DCC, I decided to introduce DCC as well. So there's a double pole changeover switch here which toggles between my Bachmann Easy Command DCC unit and an old Hornby 965 underneath. Guess who? My grandson's, one of his favourites. So you can switch, so you're running on pure DCC or DC for Power District A. Now Power District A includes the passing loop and the track work that runs on into the loco shed, but behind the shed there, in front of the sort of miner's hut and the coaling stay, that's Power District B, so that is only DC. Hence I've introduced a little stop sign there which lifts out, just to remind the operator that when they're running a locomotive, if they want to cross over from A to B, they need to remember before they go ahead and to make sure they use the right power supply, just to make sure there's no serious issues. And the same applies over here, just behind the hobos. You probably won't see particularly well, that's another point there, and that's another stop notice to remind you that that works. You've got the same challenge there. So there we are. That explains some of the basics behind it all.